I like how we're talking about Spider-Man 2 for the matchup for Spider-Man 1.
Dude, I do not care. I will use any opportunity to bash Spider-Man 2's plot when I give him the chance.
Oh
Hunter.
my god.
Let me at him. Let me in. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the HGO podcast. One of your hosts today, Ethan. Joining me, as always, is my good friend Hunter. Hey, Hunter, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing just swell.
It's nice to see you. I feel like it's been a long week for me, and I just it feels like it's been an eternity since we divulged into the degenerate topic of Danganronpa. And I'm glad to see that the people have found it and that the people are mad and that everyone is seething, and it's good to know that we're right and everyone else is wrong, you know what I mean? It's pretty good.
It's true. I think we do have the most correct ranking of those characters you could possibly have.
It was a very good episode. If you haven't checked it out last week, be sure to go and check it out. It was a fun one. We had quite a lot of fun, and there's been some positive reception to it, so we'll maybe be doing that with other games and other franchises down the road. It was a lot of fun. Cal doesn't know what he's missing, dude. You know, the goblins, they've still got him. At this point, I've given up the search. You know what I'm saying? Like, they can have him for now. Like, yeah.
Oof.
Once he breaks out,
We're gonna have to start putting up posters being like "Free Kyle," like he's some kind of prisoner of war.
Yeah, dude. You know, we were joking where we're like, oh, we can finally, you know, while Kyle's taking this break, we can finally do all the topics that we don't usually get to do because Kyle isn't that. And it's like, we're going through the list. We're getting who knows when we'll run out? We're running out. Like, PlayStation games. He hates the PlayStation. Dude. Like, what's that? But no. We'll hopefully see him again soon. But for now, we are carrying on our little trek through the dry spell, the desert period that is the early video game release calendar for this year. And we're going to do a bit of an interesting one, obviously. A couple of weeks ago, we were slamming Sony, and now I don't know if this is praise or more slamming, as we're going to decide.
Potentially a little bit of both.
Yeah, we're going to decide right now.
I feel like
right
the list of things
here.
Eligible here is as much of an indictment of them as it is
Yeah. So we're going to basically rank the best modern Sony PlayStation exclusive game that is not exclusive. Well, some of these are still exclusives, but a lot of them aren't. But, you know, best modern Sony game, best modern PlayStation game. What is it? We're going to do it in a bracket that is randomly generated, and we're going to argue. Who knows? Some of these I think we might come to easy agreements with. Some of these we might bicker on and disagree on, and we'll have to decide what is the best modern PlayStation game. Stick around to find out. But hey, if you're new here, welcome on in. It's the HGO podcast. We're here every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. UK time on podcast services everywhere, and youtube.com/hot gamers only. Bit of housekeeping for you. Cal's got a new article up. It's that time of the month. He's got a new article up on the website. So even though he cannot talk to us, there is an internet connection down in those goblin mines, and he has sent us a correspondence. So go and check it out on the website if you haven't already. It's a pretty interesting read. And he's doing that, for, as far as we know, for the foreseeable future. So if you are into more of our written work, then hey, there's new stuff going up all the time on the website. Obviously, you can catch up on more recent reviews that Hunter and I have done. You know, Mika and Silent Hill 2. They're also up on the website. Who knows what's going to carry on? If we got some more stuff in the pipeline, who knows? But you can always find it on our website or on the YouTube channel. You know how to find us at this point, hopefully. But yeah, let's dive straight into it. First of all, sorry, audio listeners, gotta get that out of the way, Hunter. I don't know what this hoodie is and why it's doing like the PS5 popped collar look, but it's annoying the heck out of me because it's not sitting normally and it's going into my face. I might have to do that a little bit. I don't know. Let's fix it a little bit. It's weird. Let's talk about PlayStation. I just wanted to push it off as long as we can, okay? Modern PlayStation. You love it, you hate it. It was cute when it was like a couple of years on the PlayStation 4, but now you're like, oh, a lot of this is modern PlayStation now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put the tier list up for video watchers right now. Here we go. I'm using this website. It's extremely bright. I'm sorry if you are like me and you hate the light. Well, you're gonna have to deal with it. You've randomly generated this, Hunter. You've not had any
Yeah. I just
no
clicked
collusion.
shuffle a couple of times or refreshed it or whatever the process to make this happen was. Um, but uh, yeah, I did not order these matchups in any kind of way.
He hasn't rigged it. There's no collusion here. Um, and we're talking about a majority of the modern PlayStation games, okay? I'm sure there's one or two that have been knocked off. I'm sorry if you were here, if Concord lovers, if you were here, Concord haters, if you were here to see us bash or love that game, you're in the wrong space.
Yeah, I didn't want to go with every single thing because
We'd be here all day.
we'd be here forever, and we haven't played a lot of the ones that I left off. Like, like I couldn't tell you anything about Knack or why it should go on or shouldn't go on to the next round or
It's the
anything
big
like
hitters,
that.
right? It's the big hitters.
Yeah.
And I think
I,
if it's
I,
a
I put in
big
a couple just for us, like
Mhm.
Gravity Rush there,
Yeah.
but
What, you telling me you couldn't get rid of one of these other games and have also put Gravity Rush 2 in? Am I right, gamers? That give it a second chance? Yeah. But no, you'll notice a couple of games are missing here. For example, only 2 of the Spider-Man games here are here. So Miles Morales isn't here. Gravity Rush 2 isn't here if you're a Gravity Rush 2 fan. I'm sorry if you're a fan of The Last Guardian. The Last Guardian is also not here. How about if I
yeah,
just read out the games that are here? Because trust me, this is going to take long enough as is. If we had every game, we'd be here forever. And as much as I love doing this podcast, I would also like to sleep before 4 a.m. today. So, we've got to knock it down a little bit. But the games we have here are everyone's favorite Days Gone, Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok, Bloodborne, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon Zero Dawn, Returnal, Spider-Man, Infamous Second Son, Gravity Rush, Spider-Man 2, The Last of Us Part 2, God of War, and Astro Bot. So some of them have got multiple entries, some of them just the one. Sorry guys, not all 16 ports of The Last of Us Part 1 are on this tier list. We could have done that though. We could have very comically have put it in all of these different categories and then let every other game win that round, just ironically. So we're
yeah,
gonna
just
go.
make like the round of 16. There's only like 8 different games, and The Last of Us 2 is like in its various ports or the
Yeah.
opposition.
Yeah, exactly. Get easy sweet for everybody. So we're doing these top 16. Timestamps are down below if you're an audio listener or if you are on the video feed. Obviously, first round you can see in the timestamps what the verses are. As we get further in, we don't want to spoil it for you with the timestamps. So it'll just say quarterfinals, semi-finals,
Yeah.
final. And we're going from top left. We'll do top left to bottom left, and then top right to bottom right. Okay, none of this nonsense where we mix and match it. So you know where to go. Some of these I think are going to be very quick and very easy. Some of these I think are actually going to be quite painful and pretty tough. So let's see how it goes. Starting off with everyone's favorites. Days Gone versus Uncharted 4, Uncharted 4: A Thief's End.
Yeah. So,
I mean, for me, this is a very easy pick. For me, this is a very, very easy pick.
yeah, I understand. I would like to say yeah, Uncharted 4 is like the more polished and better game, I would say. I think
Mhm.
that Days Gone, I would like to say a couple of nice things about it before we put it out of the contest here. I
Oh
think that
yeah.
for as rough as it is around the edges, I do feel like it does stand apart from a lot of the modern catalog, despite being similar in a lot of ways, since it is, still an open world action game. And that's the direction that PlayStation leaned heavy into from, you know, PS4 and forward. I think that it sets itself apart with its various different. It's got the grit to it that a lot of the other games have focus tested out of it.
Yeah, totally. Um, I think it'll always be a tragedy that this game never got a sequel.
Yeah,
Or even,
for sure.
for now, as we were saying a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not saying this ironically or anything like that, we might never get another game from Bend ever again. at
Yeah,
this rate.
and that would
And because
also
of
be a
Days Gone,
tragedy
because it got like a 78 or whatever instead of like I can't remember what the score is that it got. It
because
was
you wouldn't just greenlight a sequel.
what an absolute waste because it had the potential and it had the fan base. People, it didn't wasn't necessarily a massive seller at the start, but it kept picking up and people really loved it. My dad
I
really
think it
loves
is,
Days Gone. It's one of his favorite
yeah,
PlayStation exclusives from that generation. People
I
that
think it
loved Days Gone
especially
loved it.
got a new lease on life when it got its PC port. I think that a lot of people really found it and enjoyed it then for
It's one of the first
whatever
PlayStation
reason.
games to also get a PC port, so a lot of people gave it a chance because it was one of PC, for PC fans, it was one of their first opportunities to play one of these PlayStation Studios games. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's a real tragedy that there was never a successor or a sequel or anything like that. And yeah, I'll never understand it. It's one of those ones that I'll just never understand, Hunter. I just never understand it. As
yeah.
for Uncharted 4, the reason why I'm like, this is not a difficult contest for me is because not only do I think Uncharted 4 is the best Uncharted game, and I don't think it's even close that it's the best Uncharted game. Uh, I think it's a fantastic video game. Like I think it might be out of modern Naughty Dog. So from like Uncharted 1 to The Last of Us Part 2. Looking at it in retrospect, it is my favorite Naughty Dog game out of that era. It just
Mm.
is. That's my favorite one. Just because I like The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2. I think The Last of Us Part 2 at times is a better video game than Uncharted 4, but I just like the atmosphere. Like Last of Us is so doom and gloom all the time. It's always depressing. I've never wanted to replay The Last of Us Part 2. I will happily
Yeah.
replay Uncharted 4 because even though it's a darker narrative than the other Uncharted games, it's still got like that heart to it that I'm like it's still a feel good game by the end of it. It has that
Yeah,
kind of
it's
action
even got
Indiana
some
Jones happy ending kind of vibe to it.
it's even got some like solid, feel good reminiscing at the beginning and in the
Mhm.
middle and whatnot. I think that of all of them, it's definitely Uncharted's best story.
Oh, by far,
Um,
it's Uncharted's
yeah,
best story.
easily.
That's why I think it's the best Uncharted game because it's Uncharted at its best. It is the best narrative. It is the best gameplay. It's the best level design. The variety in this game, like for a lot of games, those kind of gimmicky levels, like on the original Uncharted games, the gimmicky levels, the get on the get on the jet ski and go up the water, go up the river. Like the worst parts of the game are when the game
Yeah,
deviates. Whereas this game, where you're just in the jeep, hanging around with Sully and your brother, it's just a really good time because you get all this dialogue and the jeep's really fun to play, and then you get that awesome set piece, with the grapple hook and the swing, and it's just so good. Like genuinely, I have never, I've always loved Uncharted 4, and I will never have a bad thing to say about Uncharted 4. That's why I never want them to make another one because that is so they nailed it.
it
Like that
really is a
is
great cap to the series and
It's a
like whatever.
pinnacle, dude. It is
Yeah,
literally that is quintessentially what Uncharted is. Is Uncharted 4. It's perfected. It's perfected what they intended to do. And I can't wait. And don't get me wrong, I will happily take an Uncharted 5 at some point if it's not Naughty Dog's like only thing they're ever going to work on, or if it's somebody else. And if it's with Cassie or something like that, there's been enough time now, it's been nearly a decade, that I would be more willing to play one of these. Because, Uncharted 4, we're like, yeah, I'm kind of done because we've had 4 of these in the span of 8 years, 9 years.
yeah.
I don't know.
This
It's like
is the
that
thing
Batman
about
effect,
the
isn't it? Too
modern.
much Batman.
Yeah,
Now I need
it's
Batman because where's it gone? Where's my Batman
the
gone?
modern video game cycle. Dev cycles now kind of build in the wait time, so
Yeah.
you know. Mm.
But no, I think, I do. I do adore Uncharted 4. I genuinely do. Uh, from performances to everything. I think we're
Yeah,
pretty much agreed here that Uncharted 4 is going to be
yeah,
number
we
one.
are.
I'm sorry, Days Gone. I've played little bits of Days Gone. I liked the little bits enough. I've just never fully stepped it. Never dipped my full, never Never
You
jumped
never
it.
jumped in the
I dipped my
pool.
toe. I never jumped in the pool. Yeah. Okay. Here's a more interesting one. This one I feel like
The Battle of 2022.
the Great War of 2022, ladies and gentlemen. Horizon Forbidden West versus God of War
Who
Ragnarok.
has who earns the right to challenge Elden Ring?
uh,
Speaking of course in that year, not this bracket here.
nah, that's the
Uh,
final challenger because Elden Ring always wins. That's the
yeah.
rule. Um, God, this is so hard. Because if you had asked me like at the end of 2022, I feel like my answer was different.
This one's funny for me because if we were to look at their previous two iterations, my opinion is flipped, where I definitely liked Horizon more than I liked God of War 2018.
Hmm.
And it's very funny because I think that Horizon Forbidden West is a solid step forward from Zero Dawn. And I
Yeah.
would say the same thing about God of War Ragnarok, but far and away, I like God of War Ragnarok more than Forbidden West, I'd say.
See, that's interesting. Because when we were, like I say, when we were in 2022 and I just finished God of War Ragnarok, I was like, yeah, I think we said something along the same lines in our review coverage of the game where I was like, yeah, I kind of feel the same way. And now looking back on it in retrospect, I don't know if it was the rose tinted glasses of just having finished and come off of Ragnarok, or maybe it's that I haven't played either of these in a long time, but I just think about the moments that I had, not in the story, but just the moments I had in Horizon Forbidden West versus the moments I had in God of War Ragnarok. And I've started to lean more in the opposite direction now where I like Forbidden West more than I like Ragnarok. And
Mm,
I think it's just
interesting.
because I think of all of the moments that I had with Forbidden West where I'm sitting there and it's like that Las Vegas section still is in my mind when the neon lights up and you're in the underground like kind of and I'm like
Uh,
I just
yeah.
think about moments like that where I was like, man, this feels like how I thought the original Horizon looked. Like I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
god, like this is kind of what I was envisioning. Whereas God of War and Ragnarok, I think it's fantastic. I think it's God of War 2018, but with Source. Like I think it's a lot
Yeah.
better. It's a lot stronger. But it is more fundamentally God of War 2018. Where in my mind, I feel the jump between Zero Dawn and Forbidden West. I don't necessarily feel the jump just other than this game is more fun. They Cory Barlog, I love him to death, but you know, the original God of War 2018 was just a lot of walking, have a talk, fight like 3 or 4 enemies, move on to the next section. Whereas Ragnarok is like, yeah, fuck it, chuck like 12, 15, 18, 24 enemies all at one go and have a,
Too
you
many
know,
bosses at once.
yeah, do what you want and have a lot more fun.
Surprise you in the canoe. I think
Yeah.
the thing for me is that both of these games are really good at creating their moments, I would
Mm.
say. I feel like for me, God of War was more of a consistent, I was more consistently into it going in between the moments.
Mm. I don't know. Maybe it's just my goopy gamer brain, you know, where it's like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. One of the things that I love about that game that, you know, Kyle loathes is the kind of here's a bit of a hub world, go all goopy goblin brain and tick off all the boxes, you little, you know, you little weirdo. And I'm like, I do like ticking boxes when the stuff's good, like it's not a Ubisoft sandbox. When the stuff's good, I'm
Yeah,
like,
to be
I love
fair,
ticking those
Horizon's
boxes.
boxes are more fun to tick than the average open world
Yeah, I was
silliness,
just like, I'll tick
I would say.
everything.
But
It's interesting. Like, I think these games are both extremely strong. Like I say, I think they're both better than their predecessors.
yeah.
And I mean, for me, I'm like, I don't, I'm like, I'm happy to concede here. Like, I'm happy to say and move God of War Ragnarok forward because I'm also sitting here going, yeah, it's like, it's fantastic, really. I'm also looking at God
Yeah.
of War later and thinking, yeah, God of War will get completely knocked out if we don't put it through here in a little way.
Yeah.
not to play
uh,
my hand too soon. But yeah.
but yeah, and like there's a bunch of moments from God of War or from Ragnarok that I still think about all the time. Like the getting the spear is one that I feel like people brush over that one a lot, and that's one that I always just think about quite a bit, just because I think the moment between him and Rock at that point is really good. All
Yeah.
the stuff at the ending. There's a bunch of real good, solid moments that pop into my head quite a bit in Ragnarok.
It's
Even
one of those games that I
yeah,
hope to replay at some point. It's like, especially compared to 2018, I never really felt like I need to replay 2018 before playing Ragnarok because there's not that much story that happens really. Like, you get to the end and it's like there's the plot twist at the end and you're like, okay, off
yeah,
we go. Whereas Ragnarok, so much stuff happens that I've probably forgotten like 60% of what actually happened in God of War Ragnarok because it's so story dense.
yeah.
Um it feels like they tried to cram two games worth of story into one, which I think is a pro and a con for that game at times. So yeah, I'm happy to let's do it then. Let's put God of War. I'm happy for that. Boop.
Yeah.
Right. Moving on. I feel like this is another easy one. Like what like Bloodborne versus Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Listen, I love Ratchet and Clank. That's not even
For
the
as
best
good
Ratchet
as
and Clank
Ratchet
game.
is
It's not even
good,
the best. It's not even
or
the best
yeah,
Ratchet and
for as
Clank
good
game.
as Ratchet is, I would be dishonest to say that Bloodborne isn't just the easy pick for me here. Like Ratchet, I liked a lot when I played it, but also independently of Ratchet being brought up in conversation, I don't think about Rift Apart that much.
Yeah, I think Rift Apart is one of the best looking PS5 games still to this day. I think the animation work and the art direction is phenomenal. I think what some of the level ideas that they have is
Yeah, it does have really good
brilliant.
concepts, like the one where you're switching back and forth. Good
But
stuff.
I can't help but feel what lacks in Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart a lot of the time is narrative and just like overall kind of personality. It's like I feel like a lot of Ratchet's DNA has gone from and it happened it was toned down in the future series and it was toned down even more for the 2016 game where it's like the cheek and the humor of Ratchet and Clank has kind of gone off of a cliff where it used to be all kind of funny jokes and mocking capitalism and a load of other stuff. And it's just kind of turned that down now to just be like, oh, look, Quark's a dummy and Dr. Nefarious is a goofball. Where it's like,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of that's toned down. The narrative, I really like what they did with Rivet.
Riv
I really like
yeah.
that stuff. I think it's good. I wish there was more of it. It feels like, I don't know. When I look back at it, I'm like, gameplay fantastic, graphically beautiful, adore it. In terms of
Yeah, it's a
everything
funny
else, and as a
thing
whole,
you
as a whole package, it's like, is it in my top 5 Ratchet games? I don't even know that anymore because I'm like, I love Crack in Time more. I love Ratchet 2 more. I love Ratchet 3 more. Maybe Rift Apart comes fourth in that scenario. Um,
it's a funny thing for me to say since my only experience with the series so far is just the 2016 game and now this one, but
mhm.
like if you were to tell me as someone who's played all of them that the game is just kind of going through the motions in a way, I would
Yeah.
believe you without any kind of instance of doubt.
Well, that's what it is. It is going through the motions,
Yeah.
100%. I have a friend that played Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart and said, I prefer the 2016 game. And I'm like, that is a bold take, but I can kind of see it because if you've played a Ratchet and Clank game before and then you play this one, you're just like, oh, it's more of it. And the story isn't a huge thing that I'm like, oh, it's a lot better. I don't know. I love Ratchet and Clank. I think when Ratchet and Clank comes back, I think it's time for a better narrative. I think it's more of a focus on story and characters, like in Crack in Time. I also think it's just time to not do Doctor Nefarious. It's been a long period. They even crammed him into the 2016 remake of the first game. Like we've had enough Nefarious. He's
Was
just
he
been the
not in
villain.
that at first?
No, he doesn't.
Oh, that's
Hunter in
hysterical.
the original series, he doesn't. He's the only the villain of Ratchet and Clank 3. He's not in the first two games at all. He's the main villain of 3.
Oh my god, he's
They
Ratchet and
just
Clank's
shoehorned him
Pyramid
in.
Head.
Yeah. They just shoehorned him in ever since. He's the villain in Crack and Time. He's the villain in Nexus. He's the villain in 2016. He's the villain in Rift Apart. Like he's just been the villain for ages. I think because Ratchet will come back, and that's not just because I'm saying that because of the Insomniac leaks, but I'm saying that because of it shows up. Insomniac likes making these games once every decade at least.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's the kind of series that they're good to go back
It'll
to
probably
at
be the
least once
PS.
a
It'll probably be a
generation.
PS6 launch title, knowing them, or like launch period. I just hope they do
Yeah.
something new with it, because they can prove they've already proven it. Sometimes already proven that they can make beautiful games with incredible animation. Just bring back that story and that personality a bit. Bring it back. Like why, why? Just sugarcoat it. Anyway, Bloodborne's fantastic. I love Bloodborne. That game's
Oh
sick.
yeah, Bloodborne it rules without a doubt. Like we've talked
Where's the
about.
remaster, dude? Where's the 60
Oh,
FPS
dude.
patch? For
Yeah, I
God's
know, right?
sake.
Yeah, we've talked about how good this game is a number of times on the show already. So, it's got the atmosphere in a way that just speaks to me.
It's got to the source.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've mentioned it. We played, both myself and Kyle played this for the first time during this podcast. You can go back and look at our impressions of this game.
I
I think it's
also
and you did as well, didn't you? Oh my
yeah.
god, we all did.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. I love this game. I think the only two From Software games I've played so far are this and Elden Ring, and I think that Bloodborne absolutely trounces Elden Ring in my opinion, because I don't know. I just personally prefer a more tight knit linear experience. Because in my opinion, every Bloodborne boss thrashes 19% of Elden Ring's bosses because they're generic and boring. So like,
Yeah, I would say so. Most of like some of Elden Ring's bosses are pretty cool,
oh no,
and
some of
then
them are
even then,
phenomenal. Don't get me wrong,
yeah,
like so many of them are phenomenal. But it's like, I think it loses out. The problem with Elden Ring for me is some of it is lost. Some of its charm is lost when you're fighting Tree Sentinel number 62, Armored Knight number 23. And it's just like you just keep going through the
well,
motions. Dragon
Watchdog,
number
yeah,
27. And it's
yeah.
like you lose some of the magic. And as somebody, again, I like Elden Ring's world. I appreciated Elden Ring more the second time I played it. But I prefer the more linear, almost handcrafted now, like beat for beat like pace of Bloodborne.
Yeah.
There's something about it where it's like, you can beat, if you want to, you can beat Bloodborne in like a day or two if you wanted to, and you can just go back and you can go through the motions, you can replay it and just have a great time. And I enjoy and I appreciate that about Bloodborne. It's just, if I just want to go in and I want to beat the shit out of a couple of guys, I can go out in there and beat the shit out of a couple of guys. You know what I
Yeah, just
mean?
go smack around Gascoigne for fun.
Yeah, yeah. There's a fun to that, right? There's a fun to that. I also like the simplicity. I like having limited weapons. I like how it's more about how you go about it. It's less of build, like there's builds, but it's like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like
it's
the
more of
simplicity of it.
just your vibe and the actual what you're pressing the buttons for,
Hmm.
rather than a Kyle having a substantially harder time with certain bosses because I prefer to make things bleed.
Yeah, well, Fire Giant is an easy boss. Am I right, gamers? Ratio, Lamau.
Ugh.
Um, yeah, it's a great game. Easy, easy, easy pickings there. Uh, this one isn't going to be controversial in the slightest. Ghost of Tsushima versus the original Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh, this is gonna be fun because my pick is Horizon.
Bro, this is like comparing like bread. You know what I mean? Like this is like
Do
and
you prefer white or
half and half,
grain?
dude. Like yeah,
Yeah,
like, yeah, like 50-50, like it's like it's but these are both of them basically the same game. I don't know if that's a controversial take, but it's like they're basically the same game. When it's like when it comes to the
open world has
open
bunch of
world,
stuff to do. Does it better than Ubisoft, but not as good as like Breath of the Wild.
yeah. And I don't know, man. I feel like Horizon felt a bit more novel to me when I first played it than Ghost of Tsushima did. I know people adore Ghost of
I
Tsushima, and I
wasn't
know that
playing
this is the
Horizon
first controversial
going,
pick. I know this is the first
yeah.
controversial pick of this draft, and people are gonna go, "You guys are really gonna pick Horizon Zero Dawn over Ghost of Tsushima?" And
Yes,
I'm
I
kind of like,
will. Like,
"Yeah." I don't like the story of Ghost of Tsushima. I'm
yeah,
sorry. The side
it,
quests are pretty good, but the actual main quest is kind of mid.
it's
It's
one of
like,
those things where I wasn't playing Horizon going, hmm, I wish this was linear. Whereas I feel like Ghost of Tsushima would have been a better game if you just truncated the experience and condensed it down more.
Ghost of Tsushima feels more like a Ubisoft game to me. In the fact that it's like, do you want to sit here and do a haiku for the 20th time? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do a haiku for the 20th time.
Yeah.
Funnily enough.
Whereas
It's like,
even the repetitive stuff in like the side content of Horizon felt meaningful in some way, like the what were they, the spikes with the well, the guy leaving like his apocalypse log or whatever that
yeah, there
was
was,
tied
yeah, the
to,
little, yeah,
yeah, it was tied
the
to one of the things you're doing that
collectibles. You got
is
the
like
hunting
it's yeah,
grounds. You've only got 5 tall necks to climb in like the whole game or something like that. Like I don't know why. I think I enjoyed Horizon. I did enjoy Horizon more than Ghost of Tsushima. I'm very much looking forward to Ghost of Yotei because I feel like Sucker Punch has a very high chance here of just going, okay, here were all the issues with the original Ghost of Tsushima, tick, 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 and then, oh wow, phenomenal, what a game. Like that's what I'm hoping is I plug it in and I go, oh my god, the main quest is actually good. Thank you. Like I really appreciate that.
yeah, yeah.
Or oh, the side characters aren't awful. Like my god, every character I met in Ghost of Tsushima, I was like, I don't care about you. I don't care about you. The only dynamic I kind of was interested in was Jin and his uncle, but that's just because the game was all about Jin and his uncle, so it was kind of hard to not be at least a tiny bit invested because that was the whole premise of the game. Uh,
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's fantastic.
Uh,
I think it looks beautiful, but yeah, to me, Horizon had that wow factor more than Ghost of Tsushima originally did, which is a shame
Horizon
because I
also
was
had like
so
the
excited.
benefit of being, it felt like, I know it isn't the first new one of the generation, but it felt like PlayStation's first new thing in a while.
Yeah, it was like it was the start of the second wind, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Like I always
Horizon,
liken
like
it to
Uncharted 4 closed that chapter, and then Horizon kind of started everything else that came after it.
yeah, yeah.
Like your
Like
God
I
of
always
War,
liken
like
Horizon
your
to being
Days Gone.
PlayStation's Splatoon because it's the first new thing that they did and they just push it for a while.
Yeah, but no,
Yeah.
I think are we both in agreement then? Horizon.
Yeah.
Oh, good. That's not going to be controversial. Right. Anyway, let's have more fun. Let's talk about this here. Returnal versus the original Marvel Spider-Man, Insomniac, 2018. This is hard for me because I like
Mm.
both of these games quite a bit. And I think the problem with this also is the more time that has passed, I think the more everybody is in agreement that bar gameplay, Marvel Spider-Man 1 is a lot stronger than 2. Like I think everyone has come to the realization like I don't think I've seen anybody take their rose tinted glasses off quicker on a game than Spider-Man 2. You know what I mean? Like I
My
feel like
rose tinted glasses were off of the game before I finished it,
when
I
you rolled
think.
credits, yeah.
Yeah.
I think mine were a bit longer. I was like, oh no, but the gameplay was so fun. And then as I was
The
like, oh yeah,
gameplay was
but the
good and
story was really bad. I was gonna say something else, but I'll say really bad in the
uh,
second act. Like my god, Craven, great setup.
yeah.
I think the Venom stuff ruined it for me. If I'm honest with you, I think the
I
idea
like how
of
we're talking about Spider-Man 2 for the matchup for Spider-Man.
dude, I do not care.
uh,
I will use any opportunity to bash Spider-Man 2's plot when I give him the chance,
oh
Hunter.
my god.
Let me at him. Let me in.
The main problem is that the emotional climax of the story came at the end of Act 2, and they had a whole ending part to get through.
Yeah, totally,
Uh,
100%. But yeah, I'm like, let's go back to Spider-Man 1. I think Spider-Man 1 is a really special game in terms of everyone knew that going into that game, oh, that game's going to be fun. And that game's probably going to be good because Insomniac make really good games. I think what I was surprised at was how strong the narrative actually was and how much of a payoff it has at the end. I don't think I was expecting to be shedding a tear in a Spider-Man game, if I'm honest with you. I thought it'd be like, oh yeah, we knock out the baddie and then we're done. But it actually has got like a lot of weight to it. And it's like, the later games, yeah, it has those kind of moments, but I think what it nails, and Miles Morales also does this, is it gets to the heart of what a Spider-Man story is, and that's the characters. It's
yeah.
how does the narrative impact both Spider-Man and Peter Parker? Whereas Spider-Man 2 does that and then goes, ooh, big gooey aliens take over New York. What you gonna do? Big big globules everywhere, and I'm like, this sucks. This game is bad. Like, I
I
was
should have,
genuinely,
in retrospect, I should have made the executive decision to pit the two Spider-Man games against each other in the first round.
you should have, like,
Yeah.
genuinely, just
Uh,
because this is hard now.
but
Because you've got the good
yeah,
Spider-Man
because
game against a good video game, and you've got Spider-Man
yeah,
2 against Last of Us Part 2. So yeah, great. Like, that was great.
yeah, but
Last of Us gets an easy pass, and then we have to sit here and fight over Returnal and Spider-Man 1. Um,
uh,
But I love the original Spider-Man. I think it's fantastic. I think that Doc Ock was such a great choice of a villain for the first Spider-Man game. So much so that it
they
seems like
did
they're
a
going to bring
really
him
good
back for
job at
Spider-Man 3.
they did
um,
a really good job at like seeding the slow burn to the point where there was like the kernel of doubt.
yeah,
Where I'd be like, maybe
maybe
they
he
just
doesn't.
don't do him this game,
Yeah, maybe they're
that
just
kind of
introducing
thing.
him now and they're going to keep him around for later. And I think that's what the game does really well is, and Martin Lee, like Mr. Negative, is again the perfect kind of Spider-Man villain of unless you were massively into comics. No one knew who Mr. Negative was before this game, really. And now
Yeah,
I think of Mr. Negative all the time as a Spider-Man villain. Where it's to the point now where at least they probably aren't going to now, but there was talk originally that they were going to even bring him into a movie at some point as a villain because 2018 Spider-Man has popularized him enough in that kind of zeitgeist. And I'm like, they did a great job of bringing a comic book villain that no one really knew about beforehand, other than diehard fans, and turn him into somebody where I was like, damn, I care about this character a lot, and they did a really good job. And when he came back into Spider-Man 2, he was also one of the highlights of Spider-Man 2 as well.
definitely.
I think that's the problem is that, man, what a world they created. It's like, what a world they created, and then Spider-Man 2 just jumped the shark a tiny little bit. Anyway, let's talk about Returnal, because Returnal is also fantastic.
Yeah, Returnal is up until like a few months ago was easily like the knee jerk reaction to being my favorite game this generation as far as
Mm,
PlayStation's output. Just because for all of as good as Horizon and God of War were,
yeah.
it was they were built off of the bones of something we had seen already. Whereas Returnal is the kind of fresh and exciting thing that I wish PlayStation would dip into more often.
Returnal gave everybody hope. And I
Yeah,
think the problem with
and
PlayStation
this is
this
before they were bought, so
PlayStation this generation has almost done like a reverse, an Uno reverse on the PS4 generation. Whereas the PS4 generation started off really slow. There were a couple of good games, like Infamous Second Son, for example. But there was a real slow burn, and Bloodborne, obviously. But then it hit that mark where it was like 2016. As soon as Uncharted 4 hit, then it was like, and you're getting Horizon in February. And the following March, you're getting God of War, and you're getting Days Gone, and you're getting The Last of Us Part 2, and you're getting Ghost of Tsushima, and you're getting Marvel Spider-Man. and you're getting everything else in between there. You're getting dreams, you're getting all this weird stuff, and you're like, wow,
And
so much cool
dreams.
stuff coming out of PlayStation Studios right now. This was the opposite of PlayStation 5. PlayStation 5 was like, look, you're getting a Spider-Man on launch day, you're getting the Demon Souls remake, you're getting Returnal, you're getting Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, you're getting Sackboy: A Big Adventure, you're getting all these big to like mid to like small sized games, all from PlayStation Studios. You're like, wow, this is fantastic. I can't wait to see what happens in the rest of the PlayStation's life cycle. And now it's like, do you want one a game, maybe a year? Like, it's gone the
Yeah.
opposite way around, where it was like they gave you so much hope and like positivity at the start, and then it's like, yo, guys, Concord, am I right? Yeah.
The
Like,
videos we
oh.
did in like 2023 to
Mm-hmm.
20 or maybe even 2022, where it's like, okay, guessing what PlayStation's doing after Spider-Man 2 is so funny in
Still
retrospect
playing that
now.
game.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny because it's like nothing has changed.
Yeah, that's crazy. Also noticed Death Stranding is not on this list. Wow, what a crime. I guess it's technically on PC as well, you know, whatever.
That
Um,
felt that felt I left Death Stranding off mostly because Kojima feels close enough to his own thing that,
yeah, that's
you
fair.
know,
That's fair.
yeah.
But yeah, Returnal felt so fresh. It felt so different. I didn't get around to it until like the December of the year that it came out. But
Yeah.
I was sitting there and I was like, this game is solid. It's got the source. I can't wait to see what Housemarque does next.
Yeah.
Hopefully they haven't been sent to the live service mines.
God,
Um,
that'd be as gross as sending Blue Point to the mines. So
and that happened.
yeah. So I wouldn't be shocked, but it definitely shouldn't be. And like, I think that for the kind of gameplay that Returnal has, it does like the third person frenetic shooting like the
Rather
best that
well.
I've seen a game
Yeah.
do it. It's like essentially to for all intents and purposes being as fast and crazy as one of the Doom games in a third person kind of
Yeah.
scenario.
I think the issue I have with this lineup here is it's like this is almost like the lineup of the gameplay, you know what I mean? Where these games both excel and have kind of perfected the gameplay that they were going for. That's what makes us hard. Is because it's like from a gameplay perspective, Spider-Man is a stellar superhero game and perfected the Spider-Man movement system. Returnal is a stellar action game that perfected its third-person shooting. It's like this is a hard pairing just because you put two bangers here where I'm like this
Yeah.
sucks. Like this one sucks. Where it's like I can get there's no wiggle room out of Horizon Forbidden West going Zero Dawn will probably pick it up later. There's no wiggle room here. It just kind of sucks. Um, I know you prefer Returnal, Hunter. I know you're gonna.
Yeah, I do definitely prefer Returnal. I like its gameplay more. I like its general vibe more too, just because
Of course you fucking do.
I like
In
the
other
creepy
news,
eldritch
water is
horror
wet. Yeah.
more than goofy New York vibes.
I'm also gonna say Returnal just for the fact of it's one of those games that reminds you why PlayStation is PlayStation. Of I don't see, like Returnal to me doesn't scream like a game that necessarily anybody else would have greenlit in terms of
Yeah.
oh yeah, sure, make a weird like, roguelike Twitch shooter thing that you last made Resogun. Like, you made Resogun, sure. You go and jump and do whatever you want and take this massive leap. Oh my gosh, is that a puppy? I saw a puppy, guys. That's crazy. I saw a puppy. I don't know what to do in this situation. Hunter just showed a dog for a fraction of a second, and now my brain has just gone out of the window. That's crazy.
Sorry, I had to banish the dog because the other dog doesn't like her.
Oh
So
no.
she comes in here to run away.
Oh, that's sad. Poor dog. Um, but yeah, Returnal it is. Next up,
Alrighty.
Infamous Second Son versus Gravity Rush.
This one is fun.
Is it? My problem
Well, I
here
think,
is like I love both of these games quite a lot.
yeah,
Um,
they're both real good for what they're doing. Gravity Rush is really fun and experimental in a way that I don't feel like gets in the way of being, its experimental bits aren't they don't get in the way of enjoying it in a way that, other games
totally.
that go for something weird
Yeah.
might not be the most fun in practice.
Infamous, yeah.
And then
Infamous X is just really fun as well from a gameplay perspective. From a gameplay standpoint, I think Infamous Second Son is by leagues the best Infamous game. I've played all three of them now, so I can say that. Story wise, yeah, I think Infamous Two is better. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement on that one. But from a gameplay wise, standpoint, I adored Second Son for what it did in terms of its movement mechanics and the way it feels. There's a reason why
yeah,
everyone
it's
thought
just
that Sucker Punch was making the Spider-Man game when it was rumored that Sony was making one.
yeah, it's just so much fun to move around and, switch from power to power and such when you're going through the world in that game.
It was also one of the first few games that actually felt next gen. Like it's such a
Yeah,
pretty game,
definitely.
even to this day. It's still an extremely pretty looking game. And I really like the story. Like for the most part, I liked a lot of the story beats. I think the performances are really good. I think obviously the linchpins of the industry, Laura Bailey and Troy Baker and Travis Willingham. Oh wow, they did a good job.
Who
I'm
would have
shocked,
guessed?
flabbergasted me. But
Uh,
regardless, I think it's a fun game. But yeah, in my head, there are better. Like I said, I think Infamous Two is overall the best Infamous game in my opinion. Probably after playing all of them.
yeah, it's
Um,
like a full package.
and Gravity Rush is so fucking good. Like genuinely, Gravity Rush is so good. I mean, if I was making this tier list, I would have put Gravity Rush 2 because then even then I would have been like, you know what? Ding ding ding. That's an even more because that's an even bigger game. Like I love Gravity Rush 2 as well. Um, but yeah, there's something about the original Gravity Rush that's just quintessentially again Japan studio in a nutshell, and it's what we're missing now.
Yeah, yeah, my vote would also lie with Gravity Rush just because it was one of those. I just had a real fun time with it.
Yeah, it's great. I'd highly recommend it if you've not played Gravity Rush and you're listening to this. Go check out Gravity Rush. It's really fun. It's really good. It takes a while to get used to the controls because your brain won't kind of understand. It's like you kind of feel a bit off. And I've had a couple of people feel slightly motion sick when playing this game, so it might not be for
Yeah,
you, but if you do vibe with it, it's a really fun game. I like it a lot. I played it both on PS4 and Vita now, and I think it plays better on PS4. The Vita's great, but there's some motion controls involved, and sometimes I think from a motion sickness standpoint, it's a lot better to have the fixed point and you controlling
rather
separately
than
than it
something you
being
move around with.
together. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it works a
yeah.
lot
I
better.
played it on. I played it on the Vita. It was one of the first couple of games I played on there. Yeah, I think I messed around with Freedom Wars for a little while,
Hmm.
and then it was Gravity Rush.
Still
Yeah,
fantastic wherever you play it.
yeah, definitely.
Right then, next category: Marvel Spider-Man 2 versus The Last of Us Part 2. Ooh, spoilt for choice here.
Ah, boy.
Do we play the game that fumbles the final act, or the game that went on for far too long
In every act.
in every act? Yeah,
Yeah.
I like
That is the
I like The
question.
Last of Us Part Two. I think it's a good game. I think it's better from a gameplay standpoint. I think it's better than The Last of Us Part
Oh,
One.
it's head
I
and
don't
shoulders better than the first one at
see.
a
Here's the
gameplay
problem
level,
though,
but
Hunter.
I'd
Here's the
also be
problem.
way more motivated to play the first game again though.
Yeah, here's the problem, Hunter, is we sit here now. Obviously, I hate the fact that they remade The Last of Us Part 1. But if you're just telling me that now that's The Last of Us 1, but plays like The Last of Us 2, then there you go. That's my better game because I liked The Last of Us
Yeah.
1 from a narrative more. Like, it's. Looking back at The Last of Us Part 2 now, I respect the fuck out of The Last of Us Part 2 for what it tried to do. And I think it's kind of crazy that Naughty Dog in the 4-year gap between Uncharted and made that game when it is quintessential. Like, it's essentially a two Naughty Dog games in one in terms of length. It's that long. It's like 35 hours. It's massive. I hope that they never make a game that long again. I genuinely do. If they're going to keep
Me
doing these
too.
linear games, I hope Intergalactic is half of that. I hope it's like 20 hours max. But it's just like, man, that first game, I hate the criticisms of part 2 for the stupid reasons. I think the stupid reasons are stupid.
Yeah. My biggest beef with the game is the pacing, and also just I don't know. Upon further reflection, every time I think about the game, something it's just one of those things where something about it just annoys me, and
Irks you?
it
Yeah.
yeah, it's like thinking about the game just makes me think about Druckmann's sad nihilistic worldview and how I don't
Mhm.
respect it.
Yeah. Or there's just
But
like little
you know,
bits where it's like, hey, let's do. I feel like if we went around and did like interviews on the ground, and we're like, hey guys, can you name for me one scene from The Last of Us Part Two that you like, one moment that isn't the golf scene?
yeah,
Can you give me that? And I can guarantee that everyone is going to say two things. They're going to say, take on me, or they're going to say, the Rat King. And I think both of those moments are stellar. I think they're fantastic. I love those moments. I think the Rat King is a great bit of. I think it's one of the strongest parts of The Last
highlight
of
of
Us,
the game.
period. I think it is one of the strongest moments. But in between those two moments is 25 hours of shit I don't want to be doing. Like, don't
Yeah,
get me wrong. I like Abby as a character. I like her quite a bit. I like Lev. You could not pay me to replay that bit in the skyscraper. You could not pay me. It was
God,
so bad and boring. Like, oh
yeah,
no. Like, it's one of those games where, like we were talking about Uncharted 4 earlier,
yeah,
where we were talking about like the E3 set piece with the Jeep and then you grapple hook and you watch that and you're like, there's no way that works in terms of like actually on the sticks when you're playing it. It's not gonna feel that good. And then you play that moment and it feels even better than it looked when you play it on E3. It just everything
yeah.
works and it's just magical. I remember watching that Last of Us Part 2 gameplay section with Ellie where she's being chased by the cult and you're weaving underneath you're weaving under she's weaving underneath the vehicles and the guys are looking underneath them just shooting and all that jazz. And I'm like, "Wow, this game's going to feel visceral when you play it." And I never had a single moment where the game was like that. It was just me hiding behind cover. I shoot somebody and
Yeah,
then
definitely
then
not
someone else
during the
screams
gameplay.
Jeremy. And that's about
Yeah,
it.
it's like
know?
it's very cute that you made them call out the names of the mooks that you kill, but also I am not Ellie, and you can't make me feel guilty for the things that Ellie does.
Yeah. And I
I
think
don't
it's fair.
care. You will not make me feel guilty that you chose to kill a dog in a quick time event.
I kind of come across, yeah, like, how does everybody come out of that game at the end? I'm like, Ellie's kind of an asshole. And so is Abby. So I'm like, oh, so is that where we stand at this end? Like, it's like, yeah, they're both assholes. There you go, the end. Lovely. I just,
Shrug.
I will never, I don't think I'll ever replay The
It's
Last of Us
like
Part 2.
it's one of
I
those
just
things
don't.
where it's about what I expected from a sequel to The Last of Us, as far as like, yeah, which is why I don't like viscerally hate it like so many people do. It's like, what do you expect,
For a while, I
kind of
thought,
thing.
for a while, like for a good year, maybe even 2 years after The Last of Us Part 2 came out, I was like a strong, strong believer of, I think The Last of Us Part 2 is better than The Last of Us Part 1. I was a strong believer of that. And then I replayed The Last of Us Part 1 again, maybe like a year, 18 months ago. And I just replayed it again. And I was like, no, this game, I I despise its gameplay at times. I think it's a really clunky video game, but it just has this spark in its narrative. It just has this kind of right time, right place moment where everything just kind of coalesces, where it's kind of magical, where I'm like, I get it. When everyone says to me when people were talking about it all the time, like, The Last of Us is one of the greatest games ever made. Never understood it. And I still don't from a gameplay perspective. But from a narrative perspective, I'm like, I get you. I actually get you. Because by the time I'm done with this 14-hour game, I care way too much for Ellie than I should for any other. If it was any other video game, I would not give a shit about this character really.
Mhm.
But just the way that Ashley and Troy have done their job, just the way that the writing actually emphasizes these characters, it's just like magical. And I never felt like the only reason I feel like I really care about Ellie in part two is because of all the groundwork in part one. And there are
Yeah.
some magical moments in like part two. There are another one forgot to mention, the museum. Quite possibly my favorite moment in part two is I love that museum scene with Joel and Ellie. I absolutely adore that scene.
It's a really good scene.
And I love those moments. It's just there's so much fucking boring gameplay in between everything else. There's so many scenes where it's just like walk and shoot, walk and shoot. I'm like, I love it. I think it's fantastic. Never gonna play it again. I don't think.
Yeah.
It's also one of those things where it's like it won't be the same when I replay because I already know everything that happens, and the
That
gameplay's not
too.
interesting enough for me to care enough. And it's also like 3 times the length of part one, so I also don't care. Still think it's fantastic. That scene with Joel and Ellie at the end fucking breaks my heart every time. I cried like a baby when I played that when I reached the ending of The Last of Us Part 2. And it wasn't the scene of the future, it was that last scene with Joel and Ellie. It actually like physically like broke me. But again, it's like I wish it was half the length. I really do.
I
Now, as for
think
Spider-Man 2, is it as bad as Gobbledygook Aliens take over New York? Is it that bad? I don't know where to go
uh,
with this.
I think okay, like I said earlier, I think its main flaw is that the emotional climax happens when Miles fights Peter, and then the story just keeps going.
And
And I
even
think
then,
everything
I look back at Hindsight Hunter, and he's only been acting emo, like, in canon, for about, like, 6 days.
yeah.
So then when I'm going
Uh,
back and I'm playing it, and he's like, "You've been ignoring me. You've been like this." I'm like, "Bro, it's been a week. I've had a bad week. Okay, everyone's. I'll hold my hand up.
Yeah.
We've all had a bad week where you just don't want to talk to anybody, and you're just kind of an asshole and don't answer your phone." And Miles are like going crazy. I'm like, there's just some very funny inconsistencies with that game's narrative at times. There's a lot of them.
The thing I will say, I think Miles's half of the story is really good though.
Yeah, it's. I think it's fine. I think he's better in Mile in his own game. I feel like there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff where I'm like I
Well, I
I
think
feel
part
like
I think part of it is filled out by like the side content that he gets to do, like the thing with the what was it, the museum with the
yeah, I think the side quests are
recovering the
fantastic in
instruments.
this game. I think the side
Yeah.
quest stuff is
I think I
brilliant.
think they're I think they're a very solid step above the
Oh,
extra stuff
100%.
to do
I think
in
the
the
stuff in
first
New
game.
York is a step above the rest in terms of collectibles, in terms of side quests, in terms of everything. The gameplay, what a
Yeah,
glow up.
there's
The wingsuits. Oh,
yeah.
it's hard to go back to the original one without the wingsuits because they're just so much fun. The wind turbine, the wind kind of channels are such a
Yeah, the
great
wind tunnels.
example of scrapping realism for fun because I don't care. It's really fun to zip around in wind tunnels. I don't care if it's extremely gamey and it's not actually very realistic. It's a lot of fun.
The swinging in general felt better too.
Being able to
Um
customize that as well. You can go into the
yeah.
settings and turn off all the handholdy stuff if you want to actually, die if you hit the ground and stuff like that. That's really fun. They didn't have to go that extra mile. Um,
Yeah.
I just was extremely disappointed by the ending, and I think especially
Yeah.
when I was writing the review and I gave it a 5 out of 5. In my heart, I was like, I'm having so much fun. I want to ignore all the bad stuff. And now a year later, I'm like, no, the bad stuff is what stayed in my head. Like that is like now
Yeah.
if I was to review it, it'd be a 4 just because of all that
Yeah,
garbage
it's
at the
like
end.
I don't know. Yeah, the flopping the ending was bad. I
Which is a
think
shame because
it sti
I
it
love a
stings
lot of it.
especially because like I feel like the just bit of what we invented in the lead up to it was
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, 100%. I think, and don't get me wrong, I think there's some stuff I like Harry as a character in Spider-Man
Yeah, I
2.
think
I
the
like him a
dynamic
lot.
between him and Peter is really good. Like they do a good job at setting up feeling bad that the situation happens, but
Yeah.
then
and there's
They
still
just
room to grow. And I don't know. I just feel like with Spider-Man, like obviously it's left it in a place. It's similar to Rebirth in a way, where it's left it in
yeah.
a place where I will play Spider-Man 3. I'll look forward to it, but I'm not as excited just because I'm sitting there. I'm like, okay, so there's gonna be Doc Ock again and Goblin. Okay, cool, whatever. We're adding another Spider Person, really? I feel like we're overstuffed with two already, and everyone's like, yeah, but Peter's probably going to be retired. I'm like, you don't think in the second half he's not going to come straight back as soon as he realizes that Doc Ock is back on the loose? Like, really is? You think they're teasing Doc Ock and going, Peter's going to sit this one out when that heart is, he's the
Yeah, that'd
heart of
be
the
silly.
dynamic?
He's the reason that both of the villains have beef with him
Yeah,
specifically.
specifically, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like there's no reason. Oh no. Like yeah, Miles is angry at
Like
Oscorp. Yeah,
it would
like
be
no.
very funny if the third game was just Miles cleaning up Peter's mess.
Yeah,
But, you know, it would be I don't think that it'd be the most satisfying direction to go, even if it would be amusing.
definitely
So,
not.
yeah.
It's hard, this one. It really is. It's really hard. The problem is these are two games by both two developers that I really like and I really appreciate, but they're not my favorite work from them. You know, like well, you know what it's like. You know
Yeah,
what it's
yeah, I
like.
know what you
I'm
mean.
looking at the bees here. You know, where it's like
Yeah. Ah, I
it's
think
hard.
if I were to kind of distill these down into the things I think the most about,
Hmm.
despite the fact that I think, despite the fact that in conversation bring up Spider-Man 2 fumbling the ending, the moment I actually think about from the game a lot of the time is just the bike ride between Peter and Harry on the way to the school. Whereas thinking back on The Last of Us very often, the moment that pops into my head is the very brief Lev's sister getting the hammer to the arm twice.
Oof.
That's what comes to mind most of the time when I think of that game, just because it was one of the moments in the game where I just kind of like I'm like, huh, I see.
I think the thing is with The Last of Us
And I
Part
think it's
Two, yeah.
very
I think the problem,
emblematic
yeah.
of my feelings on the game as a whole.
I think the problem
It's
with
just
last,
like
yeah.
two hammer strikes to the wrist.
My problem with The Last of Us Part Two is there are quite a few incredible moments where I sit there and I go, "Wow, I have not felt that way playing a video game for as long as I can remember." When I think of the museum scene, when I think of just exploring the ruins of San Francisco, and then just the guitar scene with Ellie singing "Take on Me." When I think of you know, just the ending scene with Joel and Ellie. Those are really magical moments, but that's 100% because of the performances and not because of the actual fucking game. Like, I'm not sitting there
Yeah,
going, "Oh, what was your favorite gameplay moment?" I'm like, "The Rat King, I
the
guess."
Rat
But the whole
King.
thing of the
There was
Rat
that
King was
time
just
that I could.
running away. Like that's what I did. Is I ran away,
Yeah,
and then when I was stuck in a room with the fucker, then I was like, "Okay, flamethrower time." Like,
like
you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it
the
wasn't.
Rat King, for as cool as it was in the context of The Last of Us, is something that's present in every horror game almost.
I also feel like the Rat King to me here, Ethan, the non-horror fan that doesn't like to shit himself, likes to think it almost feels like it needs to be like almost like a puzzle. You know, I feel like that boss needed something like what's the boss name in Resident Evil 4 where he's like chasing you through the like he goes into the vents and you gotta freeze the fucker like
Oh, that's the
while you're waiting for the
Verdugo.
lift, the Verdugo. I felt like you need something like that where you're almost being chased by him around the situation, like a Mr. Freeze scenario where it's like you need to
Yeah,
turn on the valves to get the thing in. Because really, all it just turns into is you run away until you're stuck in a room with him, and then you just fucking run around facing backwards, firing your flamethrower. Like that's all you do is just flamethrower
yeah.
them to death.
And
It kind of felt like it
besides
needed that
the
extra
Rat
step.
King,
Yeah.
the only other like gameplay moment that really sticks out to me is that one. You're in like the basement level of one of the buildings, and there's clickers on one end of the room and the militia guys on the other side. So
Oh, and you
my
let them
nat-
take. Yeah.
yeah, my natural instinct is throw a bottle and cause chaos because
Yeah, on a
I just
guy's
like
head. Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
like being able to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's also ripped straight from the year previous where I would, you know, aggro a horde in Days Gone and run into an enemy camp and just let chaos happen that way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But no, it's like here's the thing. I don't like the ending of Spider-Man 2. I think the last 5 hours are fucking dog shit. But I would happily go and just piss around and fly and swing around that city. I have done multiple times where I've just been bored and I booted it up on PS5 and just swung around for a little bit, you know. And
Yeah.
I very much think that I will be doing that until Spider-Man 3 comes out, and then I'll probably then move over to that to do the same thing where I'm just like, I'm bored. I'm just gonna swing around New York for a little bit. Um,
Yeah, my vote would also go with Spider-Man 2.
well, there you go, Spider-Man 2. Have a. I don't even know if that is controversial or not. I think the only thing that's controversial is how we've probably angered people that like this game, even though we think it's pretty alright, and people who like this game, even though we called it dog shit and then let it win.
Yeah, we've just made both crowds of both sides
Both
mad there.
angry and then picked a side, which I think is
Yeah.
hilarious. Hey, if you're a fan of The Last of Us Part 2, go and listen to our podcasts from like years ago. There you go. See me, I'll be more positive then.
Yeah.
Uh, oh, this one's fucking easy, right? God of War 2018 versus Astro Bot. I'm just fucking clicking Astro Bot before we
Yeah,
even get
Astro
started.
Bot, easy does.
Yeah. I mean,
um,
God of War 2018 is fine. It's pretty good. I thought it was
yeah, it's
overrated,
good.
to be honest, when I played it. When I was playing it, I was like, it's good. It has its moments. I think the ending is
It
really
has,
fun.
yeah, it has a solid couple of moments there for sure. I think that the thing that God of War accomplished that I wasn't sure it was going to was similar to how people were feeling after Uncharted 4, where it was I'm good with this being done.
Yeah.
I was before God of War 2018 came out. I was good with it going away.
Dude, which is why I will 100% be there. If an Uncharted 5 is made, then I'll 100% be there because I'm like, yeah, I'm done. But if Cassie Drake, because we all know that it will be Cassie Drake when it comes back, but Cassie Drake, for all we know, she could like genuinely become like, because I love Nathan Drake as a protagonist. She could be like just an even better version of him. Like it could have like the most amazing writing and just a really incredible story, and I'd be like, you know what, was worth coming back to this because it'd be fun.
I mean, yeah, yeah, it wouldn't be that hard to achieve something. Like I like Chloe more than I like Nate, to be
Yeah,
honest with you. So it'd be easy to achieve it, or at least in the realm of possibility. I mean,
yeah,
but
100%.
yeah,
And it's like it's like coming back to God of War, and it's like okay, a lot of people are like, okay, I thought we were done. It was like, no, let's actually turn Kratos into an actual character. Let's actually let's turn this into an actual narrative focus and experience some growth with the character. And I feel like it just kind of it hit. And obviously it was very much on the dad trend, but I think it very much
yeah,
hit with a lot of people.
and it does it, and we know better now that Ragnarok is out, and with the benefit of seeing both of them. But it does it without just discarding what happened or what the other games are.
Oh,
It is
totally.
improved. It is improved by knowing how he used to be, in fact. And I think that's very solid as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's like even as someone who's never played the prior God of War games, that moment where he gets the blades, even I can feel that that's a very
Uh,
powerful moment, even having
Even
not
just
had the history
the
with them.
wind up to it, where it's like, oh, it's frozen there. You'll need something, you'll need a
Mm,
different weapon than your axe. I was like, oh, yay. And just the
mm,
whole to walk back before you even get to the scene in question, I was like, this is cool. I
yeah.
like this.
There's some great moments in God of War 2018. I think it's a fantastic game. Um, but again, I just think Ragnarok's better in every way,
Yeah.
really.
Like for as many like as good as the scene with the blades was, it's like that and the fight with Balder and some
Yeah.
of the stuff at the end essentially. Whereas I think that God of War Ragnarok has moments like that are as good in like double the quantity.
Yeah. That and it's like, you actually feel like you do explore the Nine Realms in Ragnarok, whereas in
That too.
the original, you're like, yeah, you technically can, but most of them are just
But
like
what's
a
the point?
room. Yeah. Or like there's like two
Yeah.
things here, or it's like, oh yeah, this one doesn't work. Teehee. Like, yeah. Whereas Astro Bot is fucking fantastic. Like, what a game,
Oh,
dude. What a game.
what a game. Another game that gives you hope, even though PlayStation constantly gives you reason not to hope.
I mean, we'll definitely get an Astro Bot too. We'll 100% get
Yeah,
one.
yeah, we'll
Even if
definitely
the
get
game
that,
wasn't
but
selling well, which I'm sure it's selling fair enough, but it's Game of the Year winner now. I think it's pretty safe. I think Asobi's safe for a while now. I think they've proved
yeah,
themselves.
definitely. I think when I made my video for my favorite games of last year, the thing I said was that Astro Bot is just a shot of joy into the bloodstream.
Yeah, 100%.
Just so much cool creativity permeated throughout the game in great ways.
Yeah, totally. Right. Quarterfinals time. Don't worry, guys. I know what you're thinking. Jesus, taking that long. Don't worry. I don't think this is going to be as long. I think we're
I
nearing
think
the end
it'll
game.
be more brief now that we've talked about everything
Why the
once already.
reasons? Yeah.
Yeah.
First quarterfinal. I was saying that Uncharted 4 versus God of War Ragnarok. Uh,
Mm,
this is a hardish one for me. I know
mm,
what your answer will be, and I know it's not
yeah.
even close for you. Whereas for me,
Yeah, I'd definitely give this one to Ragnarok.
mhm.
Personally, I'm just more into the I like Kratos more as a character than Drake. I like the ancillary characters more than I like the Uncharted cast. Like Freya, Brock, Atreus, Mimir, all of them. I like solid
Yeah,
step over the rest of Drake's crew.
yeah, it's a hard one for me because I know. Here's the thing: is I know I like Uncharted 4 more. I know I like Uncharted 4 more. It's not hard for me to say that, but I also
Yeah,
can't deny how good Ragnarok is. And
yeah,
here's the thing: this is where I'm standing from this point of view. Is it's like I know that I like God of War Ragnarok more as my second than you like Uncharted 4 more as your second, if that makes sense. Where it's like I
yeah,
know that my feelings of God of War Ragnarok are probably more positive. Like you know what I mean? But that's where I'm getting
yeah.
at.
It's just yeah. Uncharted 4 just doesn't speak to me in the same way.
Yeah. Whereas it does speak to me,
Yeah,
and I will be personally firing Herman Holst if I do not hear anything in the next 5 years out of a cannon. Um,
out of a cannon. Yeah,
yeah,
all right,
out of a cannon. Yeah, sure. God of War Ragnarok. Fair, fair. I'll
alrighty.
concede on that one. Um, this one I think is very easy. Bloodborne
Yeah,
versus
this one's a bit
Horizon. I
easier.
think this is very easy.
I
Oh, I
Horizon was
wonder which
probably my
one.
yeah, Horizon was probably
Oh
my
fuck! I
second
pressed the wrong
favorite
button. What the
exclusive
fuck? There you go. That's
in
what I did.
of the PS4 generation, but
Yeah,
the gulf between um Bloodborne and Horizon is massive.
yeah. It's just it has the source, dude. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. I love Horizon more. Here's the thing: is this is what you're telling me? Is it's like if you were to if you were to put well, we will be putting God of War Ragnarok and Bloodborne, but I was like, I liked Forbidden West technically more than Ragnarok. I like Uncharted 4 more than Ragnarok. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like,
Yeah.
so it's like if I liked fucking Horizon more than Ragnarok here too, and that's the better one. It's like you know I'm sitting there and I'm like, bro,
Yeah.
you think I'm playing games here, dude? You think I'm playing games?
You think I'm playing?
Yeah.
Uh
Uh, Returnal, Gravity Rush.
oh man.
That's hard. This actually might be
Yeah,
the hardest one of these
this is a
four.
little harder because
Yeah.
it's more of the both doing cool and creative stuff, but going different directions with it.
Yeah.
Uh, Returnal gets the edge for me, just
Mm,
personally, because I'm a little more engaged by its whole thing.
yeah, I would also say yeah, Returnal probably, but as someone who doesn't really care about the narrative of Returnal, it's like I like the world of Gravity Rush. I think it's a fun world to kind of vibe in. I like the tone of Returnal. I think the whole
Uh,
thing with Celine and the weird like yeah, and the
Oh yeah,
house and all that stuff. I do not care for that at all. I just kind of want to keep running and gunning and don't give a shit. Whereas when I'm learning about Cat's world, I'm like, oh, this is interesting
yeah.
how everything came to be. But no, I'm
I
fine with
vibed with Returnal's story, but I can see
yeah.
why you'd be more inclined to be like, ah, shrug.
Multiple times I ignored the house. I was just like, "Fuck you! I'm not getting in the house. I'm not." The game's like, "It's time for you to go in the house." I'm like, "I don't care. I'd rather just start shooting people, please." Um,
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh,
And then the final quarter final. We could have just had this as one timestamp with how quickly we're getting through this one. Too. Maybe we should. Um,
yeah, I think we'll do that because I've kind of been slacking on putting them that way anyway.
I mean,
Like I
this
got
one.
quarterfinal two, and then we zipped through the other two. So
I mean, this one's easy for me. I know which one I'd pick out of
yeah,
these
yeah,
two.
like game that we have zero complaints with versus game that we keep saying fumbled the bag in the last 5 hours.
Oh
You
dear,
know?
you fumbled the bag in the second half of the bracket. What a shame, Spider-Man 2. We fought so hard on that Last of Us Spider-Man bit just for it to instantly not matter anyway. Um,
Comedy.
right then, ladies and gentlemen, semi-finals time. First up, God of War Ragnarok versus Bloodborne.
Oh yeah, this is the easier of the two matchups for me
Is it?
because yeah,
I mean, it's easy for me. Like I said, I
yeah,
like
you like the
Forbidden
other
West
ones
more than God of
previous.
War Ragnarok. So it's like, yeah, for me, it's yeah. Do I like Bloodborne more than yeah? Of course I do.
Yeah.
For me, it's Bloodborne
So
in that situation.
yeah, Bloodborne easily.
100%. Wow, it's that easy. Uh, and then Returnal versus Astro Bot.
This one's a bit harder, just because I think they're both very good. They're both very good at what they're trying
Mm,
to do.
yeah,
I'd give the edge to Astrobot.
yeah, well, yeah. Like, for me, it's a
Yeah,
no-brainer. Really, I'm like,
yeah, like Astrobot.
it's
Like I
fantastic.
liked Returnal a lot. I haven't played it aside from like picking up a run here or there while my brother was playing it
Yeah.
or whatever since beating it myself. And I'd have to like Astrobots. There's way less of a barrier of entry to just go back and do that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Fair, fair.
and I think yeah, I think there's probably a more uh higher fun to time ratio there, whereas Returnal, you could biff it on the run that you're having or something, or
Yeah,
you're just
yeah,
having bad luck in some of the rooms or that kind of thing. Whereas Astrobot is such a curated experience to be good.
totally. And then, ladies and gentlemen, the fight that you've all been waiting for. Bloodborne versus Astro Bot, which can't say I didn't see this coming because it's like
It would have been a matter
unless
of
you'd put Bloodborne
it,
versus Astro Bot in one of the like earlier things, then
yeah,
I was
it would
like,
have
it was
been
coming down
basically
to this.
the top three being what they are makes sense to me because
Mm.
unless they would have all been on like the same side of the you know
Maybe we
bracket.
should have been harsher. Maybe we should have been more harsh with the draft, and then we'd be sitting here with a classic, the
We'd be
original Horizon Zero Dawn versus Gravity Rush or something.
oh yeah.
A
Well,
real upset.
even then, if Returnal and Bloodborne and Astrobot were all like matched up against each other back to back, even then one of them would still be going on to the end.
Yeah.
It would just be we would have a much less impressive opponent.
Yeah, true. True.
Uh
This is hard,
Hmm.
man. This is hard because I
This is
like both of
hard
these games
because,
for different
uh,
reasons.
yeah, definitely. One speaks to the joy of my inner child, and the other one speaks to the ethereal vampire man that I grow to be every passing moment.
One of them is on PS5 and is 60 frames per second. The other one didn't even get a PS4 Pro patch, so we're still sitting in fucking garbage land. Why has this game not been remastered? For fuck's sake. Um, this one's really hard, dude. This one's really hard. Like
Yeah.
it's very difficult because it's
Yeah,
hard.
we've definitely hit the point where like all the time I see people do brackets like this on Twitter all the time with
Hmm.
various different things. PlayStation games.
Yeah.
PlayStation games, they're usually boring because it's God of War versus The Last of Us at the end
Oof.
every time.
No.
and
And we nipped that in the
or
bud.
like yeah, or like indie games where the top four are usually something like Celeste, Hades, Hollow Knight, and
Undertale.
some yeah, Undertale's usually the fourth one. It's like you can't really be mad at any of those if they were to win, even if you have your preference, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the point we're at here where like I wouldn't be mad at either of these ones winning.
Yeah. It's like what do we end on, dude? Do we say that the last PlayStation exclusive that was released was the best one of the modern era, and we look into the future hopeful at a new beginning, or do we say that it's the game that was released in 2015 and still has a janky ass
Yeah,
fucking version that doesn't
a game
even
that's
work
about to be
properly on
10
the
years old.
console that it
Yeah.
came out on, and we haven't beat since?
Mm.
It's hard. It genuinely is. It's a difficult one. Like I genuinely would be happy with either, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah. Mm.
But I'm like, in my heart, I'm more biased towards Astro just because I'm a platformer fan at heart. Like that's just my like go-to genre. I've already 100%ed
Yeah.
Astro Bot 3 times, and the game's not even been out for, you know, how long's it been out? Like 6 months?
Been around
October,
6
November, December,
months.
January, February, like 5 months, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think in
whereas,
my heart, my choice would be Bloodborne, but like I said, Astro Bot is fantastic, and I'm willing to concede this one for sure.
I don't know if I can. Yeah, but I don't know. But am I willing to concede? That's the problem
All
that we're
right.
sitting here having to. What if we both willing to concede? Does that mean that like the Last of Us wins? Is that how that
No,
works?
no. I think if we're both willing to concede, then Returnal wins.
No,
But
Hunter.
um, what?
You think of one reason, one sole reason alone why Bloodborne should win, and I'll think of one sole reason why Astrobot should win. And
Don't
then we put it forward, and whoever can come up with the one good point
I
wins.
don't know if that's like something I can distill down into like besides like a broad quality as far as something I put in well, you know.
My argument, Your Honor, is that Astrobot distills pure joy. Am I right? No. Also, the Bloodborne characters are in Astrobot. Am I right, gamers? I mean, they're there. Everybody wins when Astro wins in the Astro sweep.
Here I've got one.
Go for it.
Astrobot wins because it does not have the Shadows of Yharnam boss fight.
Oh, true. But also, Shadows of Yharnam are sick. I love the Backstreet Boys. They're my favorite.
uh,
Ugh. I hate this. I genuinely hate this.
Astrobot
Uh,
also doesn't have a poison swamp.
yeah, true. Okay, fair enough. Astro wins.
I like how this ended with me arguing against the one that would have actually picked just to
If I'm
break the
honest with you
tie.
though, but it's like it's a flip. Like it sounds,
Yeah, it is. It is like a
it's
coin flip
lame. It's
situation.
fucking lame to say this, but it's like The true answer, if we're real here, is it's both of these games. It's like and ironically, it's like they are both the linchpins, really. Like, it's like out of all these games, I believe, unless I'm wrongly mistaken, that Bloodborne is the oldest on this. Oh no, Infamous. Fuck off
Yeah,
Infamous for a
Infamous would be
second.
the
And
oldest.
Gravity Rush, technically. Bloodborne is the oldest, like the older of them, and then Astro's the
The
brand new
old
one.
blood.
The old blood, and Astro's the new blood.
Yeah,
I think what we're saying here is that Japan kind of fucking rocks at
nailed
doing
it.
this. Yeah,
Yeah.
nails this stuff. Same with
It
Gravity
is
Rush.
cool how it's like also like the two different distilled down into being the two like best aspects of PlayStation as far as like Bloodborne has a lot of the tone and mood,
Yeah,
and I guess it's not, pseudo movie narrative, but still accomplishes a lot of those things anyway. Whereas Astro Bot has the fun and the whimsy that, you know, got people into the consoles or into
totally.
PlayStation in the first place.
At the end of the day, I think it's fair to say that these are both winners, dude. I think it's both
Yeah.
fair to say.
The real winner is the fans.
Yeah, we all win for eating good and playing such classics like Spider-Man 2. Everyone's favorite. Um, but no, they're both fantastic. What can we say, guys? What can we say? They're brilliant. Well, that was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed that.
Our links are on screen right now if you want to go and follow us. Keep up to date with what we do outside the podcast. Let us know. What's your favorite PlayStation game of recent memory?
Yeah. Someday we'll I don't know how we would go about that. Well, that was part of the reason I picked like, modern PlayStation, because like going further back, the water gets a little murky because of the
Mm,
way that console exclusivity was divvied up back then.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
like, Devil May Cry and Metal Gear Solid were exclusive to PlayStation until the PS3 era,
I think,
just
yeah.
because,
I
you
think
know.
one thing we could do in a similar vein to this, which could be fun in a couple of weeks once everything is said and done, well, a couple of months rather, is the
Yeah,
top 16 Nintendo Switch games.
yeah.
And we do all of that when the Switch is dead and buried. We can finally lay it to rest by saying that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was the best video game that came out. Am I right? Um,
Uh, yeah.
but no, we can do this. If you guys enjoyed it, let us know. We could do more of these. It's always fun to come up with new recurring features, I guess. Of the
Yeah,
podcast.
recurring
Also,
formats just
yeah,
give you an excuse to talk about something
give me a
for an
chance to
hour.
bitch about fucking Fire Emblem for a bit. Give me that opportunity, guys. Like, comment, and
Uh,
subscribe. But hey, that's that. We'll leave it there for today, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this week. What happens next week? God knows. We would have been saying Assassin's Creed if Ubisoft hadn't delayed the little cowardly video game. They're like, oh no, we don't have enough points of interest on the map. Let's push it another month.
we need to double that at
We need
least
more haikus. Ghost of Tsushima succeeded because of the haikus.
because of the haikus.
But no. So no, who knows what's
Uh,
happening next week now? We'll find out, I guess. Same time, same place, as always. But hey, until then, have an awesome week. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Toodaloo.